Radio.
Stop blaming millennials. I know it's a weird thing to start out with, but a little bit of a pet peeve of mine in the media for the past few days is you have politicians and some in the media blaming millennials for not taking coronavirus seriously. Now, the example that they're using is what happened in spring break in Florida. It's spring break, and a lot of college students went to the beaches, and people are saying, oh, look at those millennials. In fact, here is Governor Ron DeSantis saying to those spring breakers, the party's over.
The message, I think, for spring breakers is that the party's over in Florida. You're not going to be able to congregate on any beach in the state. Many of the hot spots that people like to go to, whether it's Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Clearwater Beach, are closed entirely for the time being.
So there you go. And then our Senator, Rick Scott, now he's in self-isolation right now. He's in self-quarantine because he was in close contact with someone who tested positive for coronavirus. As of right now, it seems that he doesn't have it. He hasn't had any symptoms. But here's him talking about this as well.
You know, with regard to the beaches, get off the beach. I mean, unless you can figure out how to completely be isolated from anybody else. I mean, this is individuals got to take responsibility, and every level of government's got to be very clear. Don't be on the beach unless you can be completely by yourself. I mean, we've got to figure out the social distancing. But I think, you know, whether it's our beaches, wherever we are, you know, every part of government's got to start telling people, take some personal responsibility here. Don't infect other people. Don't take a chance that you're going to be the one that's going to cause your grandparent or your parents or another friend from school to get sick.
So, and everything they both said is true. They shouldn't be congregating in these groups, even on the beach, really close together and saying, oh, coronavirus is a big deal. But why am I saying don't blame millennials? Because it is not millennials that are going to the beaches on spring break. Millennials are older. My generation, the late 20s and 30s, are millennials. The generation that is going to spring break and doing this right now, that's Generation Z. It's the generation after us.
I just can't keep up with this.
I think it's just popular to say, oh, it's millennials' fault. It's millennials, 30-year-olds are not going to the beach on spring break. We're all at work. We're not in college anymore. Stop saying it's millennials. It is not my generation.
Well, at least they're not saying we're not going to put up with any more malarkey from these whippersnappers.
This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We're on till 8 p.m. tonight right here on News Radio WFLA Orlando. We're on till 8 p.m. Did I say 8 p.m. or 9 p.m.? We're on till 8 p.m. tonight on News Radio WFLA Orlando. So I was just looking up what is considered Generation Z. So millennials is members of the generation born between 1981 and 1996. Ages 23 to 38. That is not the age that's going on spring break, people. I just wanted to point that out. Tom Benson, you heard his voice as well. We have a lot to talk about with coronavirus. I had a big post on Facebook yesterday outlining some of my concerns about all of this. Mm-hmm. You want to send me a friend request on Facebook, you can. You can also like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. We're on Facebook Live right now, so like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. Or follow me on Twitter at Yaffee. I try to be a voice of reason, even on social media, which seems impossible sometimes. But Tom Benson, you're here, and how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine, and I want everyone to know that we are socially separated by at least 25 feet.
Yeah, and a big thing of glass.
That's right. Between. Double pane, triple pane, as a matter of fact. But the funny thing is, whenever I hear this phrase, socially separated,
yeah,
I think back to high school. Those were my dating years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just like when they say social separating, I'm like, well, I've been doing that my whole life.
That's right.
So I guess this is okay. It's interesting, though, when you see a lot of the media outlets doing this. They have the anchors in separate rooms and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
they'll pan out and the cameramen will be standing right next to each other. So I'm just like, what
Well,
do we do?
They're not important.
What are we doing? So a lot of different things we have to discuss. Later on, we're going to discuss some of the things being pushed by Congress to stem the economic collapse that would come if we're all socially isolated for months at a time. The response by some on the left, I noticed on social media today, well, it's beyond reason. They're trying to say, whoa, look at that. Socialism is saving the day now. Such a dumb comment. I mean, really, just dumb. So we're going to get to that later on. I have some words of hope from the Bible we'll get later on. We do talk faith, culture, and politics here. I'll get to some faith and some hopes. You know, they're saying socialism is saving the day. I'm going to tell you why capitalism might actually be saving the day. That's coming up. But first, I want to discuss some of the concerns I have on coronavirus. And as I've been saying for weeks now, we all should be concerned about the virus. We all should take it seriously, the health implications of itself. It's obvious that what's going on in Italy right now is a wake-up call to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
People were not taking it as seriously until all of a sudden you have more people have died in Italy than China from coronavirus. Now, they have a very old population. That's a big reason why it's happening. This virus seems to affect the elderly more than anyone else and those with pre-existing conditions. So it's really affecting them. But I heard a story this morning that there was a city in Italy where usually their obituary is half a page, maybe 10 pages long.
Wow. I've heard that every 8 minutes someone is losing their life.
I mean, so when you look at that, you can't say, oh, this is just a hoax, because this is just a hoax pushed by the Democrats. You can't say that because it's in Italy and we see it. We see what's happening. That being said, and I was a little reluctant at first to say this because, you know, I do think the best thing to do right now is to listen to your elected leaders, listen to what they have to say, follow their instructions. I'm not saying disobey them or anything, but I have some questions. And I've noticed that I posted this yesterday, and today I've noticed a lot of the commentators out there are saying the same thing, which makes me think they read my stuff. I just throw that out there. But it looks like we've decided to try to combat this virus by basically putting the country on lockdown for over 2 weeks. They've been saying 15 days. That's what the CDC said. I don't see how it could only be 15 days. I just don't. But they're saying, you know, we have to do this to flatten the curve.
That's right.
But what worries me is, are we flattening the curve? Are we actually mitigating this? Or are we just delaying the inevitable? There are reports right now in some places in Asia, like Taiwan and Singapore, where they're having second waves of this virus. And it makes me wonder is, okay, we put the country on quarantine for a couple of weeks. Then after that, we say, okay, you can start getting back to normal. What happens if we start getting back to normal and then it just spreads again?
Mm-hmm.
Do you just put the country in quarantine again? Now, people are saying, oh, well, yeah, but we'll be more prepared. Maybe that's what this is about. So the hospitals will be more prepared. They're going to use the 2 weeks of the month to get more prepared, have more hospital beds, more testing, stuff like that. That seems to be part of this. But honestly, I'm not really hearing this from the elected leaders. And I don't think the American people really understand this because we're not being led. There is no end game from our elected leaders right now. They're basically saying shelter in place for a couple of weeks. And I really think a lot of people are thinking, okay, we're going to do this for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks or a month, and then we're going to get back to normal after that. But what if we can't? And our elected leaders aren't really saying that. There was a report that came out that was leaked to the New York Times, basically, that was talking about how some in the government, in the White House, are preparing for 18 months of dealing with coronavirus. But they're not telling us that. The leaders are not, and I'm not blaming the Trump administration or anything like that. This is both sides. This is local leaders. This is everything. And a lot of it is they just don't know. They just don't know. But if we don't have some kind of end game here, how long can this sustain? And are we letting people know that after 2 weeks or after a month, when we start going back to work, you're still going to see possibly a jump in spreading this again because you've had no herd immunity. And there have been some who suggest that maybe what we should have done is had the elderly, the vulnerable quarantine, and had some who are not vulnerable out there have some herd immunity among that group, so the spread starts to go down, and then it would have been much better, and you don't collapse the economy. Now, South Korea, they didn't shut down their country like we're doing here. What they did is they had massive testing, which is what we failed on. There's a report in the Wall Street Journal about how the federal government just completely failed on this, and people are going to blame Trump. It's not Trump's fault. It's really the bureaucracy. The CDC was being warned about this. They weren't taking it as seriously. Private companies were trying to get tests. The FDA was not approving it. And so they weren't taking it seriously. And there was red tape and it was getting in the way. We are now expecting the private sector to bail out the federal government who failed when it comes to testing. But South Korea had massive testing. They also had temperature checks at, almost every building that people were going into. They did have social distancing, telling people to wash hands, take precautions, but they didn't shut down the economy, and they've had cases go down. So is that the better option? We don't know. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is I think this can last about a month before we start seeing depression-like economic collapse. I think this keeping the country on lockdown can last about a month before you start having severe repercussions in the economy. And we have to weigh the pros and cons on this. We do, because we can't collapse the country in response to wanting to save lives. We all want to save lives. My mom is one of these vulnerable people. She's had lung issues for years. She's 70 years old. I don't want her to catch this. I'm very worried about her. She's basically been staying home. So this is not, I just want things to get back to normal for my selfish reasons. But we're talking now about possibly 20% unemployment and collapsing the entire U.S. economy. And if you do that, and if this has permanent repercussions, where you've given the government so much power and we don't give it back, you'll have a lot more loss of life, a lot more damage in the future, in the long run, the virus itself would have. Not only that, but a lot of this is unknowns. They say, Dr. Fauci said, well, this is about a 1% death rate, which is 10 times deadlier than the flu. That'd be bad. There's other studies that suggest that maybe 150 million Americans would catch this. So you have 150 million Americans catch this. You have a 1% death rate. That means about 1.5 million deaths. That's unprecedented. That's way worse than the Civil War or World War II. We're on a war footing right now. Trump is saying he's a wartime president. That's something I talked about a week ago. Well, you should listen to Beyond Reason. But, they're saying if that's one of the worst case scenarios, that's bad, and we're doing the right thing. But there are other studies out there, and I'm going to get to some of them, one of them in particular, that suggests that the death rate really isn't that high, that this is a lot lower. And if we find out that the coronavirus has been around for months now, and a lot of people have already caught it, and the hospital system has not been overwhelmed in the U.S., people are not going to be happy with the response here. Now, people are saying, well, I'd rather overreact than underreact. I understand that. But we have to do this within reason, because you're going to collapse the U.S. economy, and that's going to affect everyone. And it's going to be very, very difficult to get out of. People are saying, well, we're going to bounce back. We will if this doesn't last too long. If this thing lasts 18 months, it's going to be extremely difficult for the U.S. economy to bounce back. And you're going to have social ramifications because people who are not getting sick, who are stuck in their homes and they don't have any money and they don't have any work, you're going to see riots on the streets if this thing goes 18 months and people are desperate. I'm not saying that the government's doing the wrong thing. I'm not saying the state of Florida is doing the wrong thing. I'm not even saying we're overreacting right now. I'm just saying I want you to think about these things because we have to start thinking about it. You have to weigh the pros and cons. And we're reacting very fast. A lot of it is panic. which is understandable, but we have to think about these things. And I wonder how long this has been around and how many people are actually affected, because it was, what was it, a month ago when I got sick for a couple of days, Tom Benson?
Yeah.
I got sick. Melissa got sick. Alan got sick in the morning show. Melissa gave it to me. I was sick for a good 4 days, and it was not a usual virus that I get. I had fevers. I had chills. I had stomach problems. I had all kinds of really bad cough. It was not a usual sickness. And Melissa's doctor thinks we probably had coronavirus.
Is that right?
That's what he told her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about that, because I feel like if I did, I would have spread it to more people. And the only other person I knew who caught it for me was Alan. I mean, I don't know. Now, I self-quarantined for like really almost a week after that. So maybe that's why. But if we find out that it's just been going around since the beginning of January and people have been catching it and the hospitals haven't been overwhelmed, that's another thing we have to think about. So I want to continue this conversation in just a moment. We're going to go over what they're doing, how they want to respond in the economy, how the government wants to respond, basically sending people money. Is that the right thing to do? This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes.
Coronavirus updates multiple times an hour. Every hour. News Radio WFLA Orlando.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job in ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Whenever I hear of an injured person hiring such and such a lawyer, I wonder, why'd they choose that law firm? Did they see the lawyer on a big billboard, a radio ad, or maybe an advertisement on television or the back of a bus? Maybe they just Googled it and clicked the first name that showed up. And then almost all the time, I worry. I worry if they know what that lawyer is really all about. Do they know when the last time that lawyer tried a personal injury case, or maybe if they ever even did? Does the lawyer have the resources to get the most for the client, or does the lawyer need the money more than the client does? And you'd be surprised to hear how many do. Here's my advice. Do your research. Results matter. Reputation matters. As the largest personal injury firm in America, there's really nothing like us. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. ForThePeople.com. Dial pound law on your cell. Pound law, that's all. Offices, Orlando.
I'm here for you, to make children smile, to make profits rise. I am the subservient of the network. Did we get all that on tape? Hey, my show! My show!
Mine.
It's actually my show. Hey, I'm Melissa Fox. Join me for Connection Show, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on News Radio WFLA Orlando.
I'm not going to tell you again. I'm telling you, I am not going to tell you again.
9 o'clock Thursdays, Connections.
Broadcasting from the Mills Air Studios. For all your AC needs, go to millsair.com to schedule an appointment. Your voice of truth in a world of fake news. Beyond Reason Radio continues right now.
Yes, and we are talking about the Chinese virus. How could you say that, you racist? We're going to talk about why that whole controversy is just beyond reason in just a moment. In my response to it, you've heard a lot of responses, and we'll play some cuts as well. But I did want to read something from, I found it on the Daily Wire, but I've heard it some places. Stanford professor, we were talking about, there's some studies out there that say 150 million could catch it, 1 million people could die. But there are some studies that suggest, no, that's not true, that this is an overreaction. And the reason why I bring that up is not to say, oh, this is you shouldn't take it seriously, but I just want to show that there's still a lot of uncertainties here. But there is a study done. It was a Stanford professor looked at some of the data. He thinks we are overreacting. His name is John Ioannidis, co-director of the University of Meta Research Innovation Center of Medicine. Excuse me. He says the data we have so far is wholly inadequate. And he said he's been looking at the numbers. And let's see, he said one way to look at what the actual death rate would be for this virus is to look at the Diamond Princess cruise. Because literally the Diamond Princess cruise was almost like in a way, it's like a test lab for this. It's a perfect test on it because you had people contained in a certain situation and you could literally see the numbers of how many people were on that cruise, how many people caught it, and how many people died from it. So it's almost like a survey of what coronavirus would do. And it says, projecting the Diamond Princess mortality rate onto the age structure of the U.S. population, the death rate among people infected with COVID-19 would be 0.125%. But since this estimate, so 0.1, that's a lot lower than 1%. But since this estimate is based on extremely thin data, there were just 7 deaths among 700 infected passengers and crew, the real death rate could stretch from 5 times lower to 0.025% to 5 times higher, 0.625%. It's also possible that some of the passengers who were infected might die later, and that tourists may have different frequencies of chronic diseases. The general population, adding these extra sources of uncertainty, reasonable estimates for the case fatality ratio in general U.S. population vary from 0.05 to 1%. But he makes it is, he says, a population-wide case fatality rate of 0.05% is lower than seasonal influenza. If that is the true rate, locking down the world with potentially tremendous social and financial consequences may be totally irrational. And and one thing that they pointed out is they had to look at a lot of different things. So they had to look at on the Princess cruise ship. The fact is that the death rate might have been higher on the Princess cruise ship because mostly elderly people are the ones that older people go on cruises. So they had to take that into account. They had to take how many people of the whole cruise got infected. They have to take that into account, how many really got sick. And the reason I bring this up is, there's so much uncertainty. There was another study that said it's not 3%, it's 1%. Other studies have said 2%. They don't know because we haven't been able to do enough tests to be able to determine how many people have already had it. And there are apparently a lot of young people that have been asymptomatic and then never knew they had it. So you have to take those into account as well. So we just don't know yet. There's still a lot of uncertainties. Let's take a call here real quick. Matt in Longwood. Matt, thank you for joining us tonight on Beyond Reason.
We just don't know yet. There's still a lot of uncertainties.
Matt, turn the radio down. Turn the radio down. Matt, you there?
Matt, thank you for joining us tonight on Beyond Reason.
Matt. Hello? Well, I guess he's not there. Okay, we'll be right back. There's something we have to talk about this whole controversy, calling it the Chinese virus. But I also want to get into, I notice a lot of people on social media today saying, look at that, the Republicans are now socialists, and socialism is saving the day. Oh, I'm going to tell you why it's really a dumb comment. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
If you heart Beyond Reason Radio, listen to the Beyond Reason Radio podcast on iHeartRadio. Just download the iHeartRadio app and search Beyond Reason Radio. From the Airflow Designs Heating and Air Conditioning Traffic Center.
And at this time, as we take a look at the interstate, I-4, both sides are checking in with light volume and no accidents, so you're going to have a good drive between US 27 and the Maitland Boulevard exit. If you're going to be on Hiawassee Road, southbound lanes blocked after Silver Star Road with a smash-up, and we also have reports of construction at State Road 46 and International Parkway. If you see traffic problems, call the Safe Touch Security Traffic Tip Line, pound 250, keyword Orlando Traffic. From the Traffic Center, I'm Steve Foster.
Here's your News Radio WFLA Orlando exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Thursday night, mainly clear with patchy fog late, the low 64. Friday, patchy morning fog, otherwise mostly sunny and very warm, the high 88. Saturday, mostly sunny and very warm, the high once again 88. Sunday, very warm with times of clouds and sunshine and a high of 88. Monday, mostly sunny, very warm, the high 89. All day, every day, news, weather, and traffic on News Radio WFLA Orlando. I'm Drew Shannon.
Some guys can handle more pressure than others, like the fellas who handle the North Star hot water pressure washer from Northern Tool. With its Honda GX 390 engine blasting 250 degrees of hot water, the North Star can get you in and out of more hot water than that high school buddy of yours. This washer is built for blasting through the greasiest, grimiest of jobs. Get the Northern Tool and Equipment. Quality tools for serious work.
I don't believe it. My savings are gone.
Okay, think. Where'd you have them last?
I was home, then I spent them on that vacation in this tiny suit of armor. Now they're gone.
Weird. Weird? Not really. Not saving now means no money later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org. Oh, I broke his little gauntlet.
Oh no.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Glenn Beck. It's not like any other virus we have seen. The people we have to pray for are the people who are on the front lines of this, the people who are driving the ambulance, the people who are in the hospital, the nurses, the doctors, the firemen. This is why they're saying, please stop buying the N95 mask, because they need it. We are going to need every doctor, every nurse, every fireman, everybody on duty.
Glenn Beck, weekdays 9 till noon. News Radio WFLA Orlando.
Your safe space for conservative thought, not for political correctness. Yaffee is back right now.
By the way, I did want to let you know that if you miss any of the show, you can catch the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, on iTunes, on Stitcher, or on Spreaker, or on the website WFLA Orlando, and click on the Beyond Reason tab. The podcast numbers have been going up a little bit, but I'd like to see them go up even more. So make sure to share with your friends. If you miss it, listen to the podcast. You have plenty of time now. You have no excuse. You have lots of time. You're at home. Yeah, if you don't want to hear your kids yapping in the background, just put these in your headphones and you can listen to a voice of reason.
The best meme I've seen so far in this is this sports guy writes in supposedly and says, gee, day 2 without sports, I discovered a woman sitting on my couch.
Yeah, I saw these.
She seems nice.
There were some other ones like, I just found out my wife likes this. Why did I marry her again or something? Oh, man. So one thing we need to discuss is now Washington, D.C. responding to the economic crisis that is being brought on by coronavirus. I mean, it was just earlier this week that Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, talked, and he was talking about what the Trump administration wants to do. They want to spend $1 trillion, and part of it is sending checks out, possibly $1,000 check to every American citizen. Here's him saying that.
We're looking at sending checks to Americans immediately. Americans need cash now, and the president wants to get cash now. And I mean now, in the next 2 weeks.
I mean, that part of it alone would cost like $500 billion. But of course, that's not enough, because Mitch McConnell right now, today, introduced legislation that would provide as much as $1,200 per person and $2,400 per couple. I guess that is a little bit less, depending if it's just a one-time payment or 2 payments, like Mnuchin said. And at first, I was really against this, even though I understand it. But Mnuchin made an interesting point later on. Here's what he said.
I think Congress right now should be concerned about the American workers and small business. You know, interest rates are incredibly low. So there's very little cost of borrowing this money. And as I've said, in different times, we'll fix the deficit. This is not the time to worry about it. This is the time that hardworking Americans are impacted by government decisions. That's when the government has to step up to put money into the economy. The president wants to put money in the economy now. This is where if there are people and small businesses that can't make payroll because their business has ceased to exist. We've told people in restaurants, don't go into restaurants. We want to make sure that those business owners have money to pay their employees.
So something he said there that's very interesting. He said, this is not normal circumstances. This is because of government action forcing people to shut down their business. That's why it's the responsibility of the government to pay them, because it's government's fault. I mean, it's not really, it's coronavirus's fault, but it's still government action that is causing them to be shut down. So that's why it would be okay in this certain situation to pay them. Now, as I said, the Republicans put out new legislation today will provide minimum payments of $600, and aid would be phased down at adjusted gross income thresholds of $75,000 for individuals and $150,000 per couple. Additionally, there would be $500 payments for each child. This is going to cost a lot of money. And let's just say this. One person who's kind of declaring victory after all this is Andrew Yang. He's getting a lot of attention now. He was a Democrat presidential candidate. He had an idea that you should send, he called it the freedom dividend, that you should send $1,000 to every American every month. And he thinks, well, this is a victory for him. This shows that we should be doing this. And in fact, he was on CNN earlier on. Here's what he said.
Well, I'm thrilled that we're doing the right thing. It's vital to help tens of millions of American families keep their heads above water during this time. We all know that financial insecurity has been pervasive in this country even before this crisis. And so most families are not equipped to hole up for weeks or even months on end. So getting cash into Americans' families' hands is 100% the right move. I'm thrilled that they're doing the right thing. I think it needs to be a minimum of $1,000 per month of this holding up that we're all experiencing. And the CDC already issued guidance saying avoid gatherings of 50 plus for 8 weeks. So that's 2 months. And the American people need to know that it's not just a one-time thing, because imagine we get money into our hands and it keeps us afloat for a particular period of time, but then the weeks stretch on. So we need to have this security, knowing that for every month of this crisis that we're going to be getting an additional amount of, in my mind, it should be $1,000 per adult, $500 per child.
So I'm noticing a lot of people on social media, and this goes back to what I said last week. Democrats, the left, they don't want to let this crisis go to waste. They want to use this to push a socialist agenda. My Twitter troll, by the way, is very upset that I pointed that out. He's like, do you want to take back this statement now? He's putting that on Twitter. You want to take back this ridiculous statement? No, I'm exactly right. Why would I take it back? I wasn't saying that it's not an issue. I was saying that the Democrats are using this issue to promote their agenda. It's obvious true. I mean, just to listen to Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders have been using it to promote Medicare for all. But I've noticed a lot of Democrats on social media saying, well, this is proof that socialism can save the day. Now the Republicans are socialists. Now socialism's saving the day. Ha ha, capitalism fails and whatever. I'm going to tell you why capitalism's not failing in a second, but I don't think they realize how dumb of a move that is. Because in order for this to work, where you're just paying every American citizen, you know what's had to happen? Shutting down most business in the country, shutting down most of the service industry in the country, and forcing people to stay home. So you're praising your socialist solution, which includes the government basically forcing the economy to shut down and then making payments. This is your grand socialist utopia that you want to push now. It's stupid. The only reason this could work at all is because businesses are shut down by government forced actions. But it can't go on forever. And it would never work if the economy was booming, because it would just encourage people to leave the workforce, and it would destroy innovation, destroy productivity, and ruin the economy. This is ruining the economy right now. We're trying to keep it afloat because of government action is ruining the economy. So you're praising socialism now. Your socialism is ruining our economy. Now, it might be necessary to stop business because of the virus and all that. But to say, oh, this is why socialism is great. I
don't think so.
This sucks. I mean, I don't know about you, Tom Benson, but I don't like that we're doing this. We might have to do it, but if this is what socialism's like, it sucks. Mm-hmm. I mean, what other proof do you have? And by the way, I just want to point out, Italy has nationalized healthcare. They're having a lot of issues. They have nationalized healthcare.
Sure.
It's not going to solve all the problems. But one way in which the economy, basically one way which capitalism is saving the economy, it might actually save us from coronavirus, that coming up later, just like it saved us in World War II. It was capitalism that got us out of the Great Depression and saved us in World War II and created the arsenal of democracy, as FDR called it. It was partnerships with business and capitalism that did. There's a book by Arthur Herman that lays all that out. I would recommend you read it. But there's a piece here by the editorial board in the Wall Street Journal. It says, "The gig economy to the rescue." One good thing about our capitalist country is we have such a dynamic economy that even in times like this where you have a crisis that's shutting down a lot of businesses, it's so dynamic that it can move and transform pretty quickly in the face of a crisis, which happened in World War II as well. You had businesses transforming themselves in order to fund the war effort. You have businesses right now transforming themselves to fight coronavirus. We have other businesses as well that are going to pick up the slack and because of coronavirus. The example of this, as it says here, is the gig economy. It says here, the flexibility of app services is helping millions in the panic. It says Americans have been urged to social distance, and those who may have been exposed to the coronavirus to self-quarantine a decade ago, this would have been unpleasant, yada, 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 unpractical. Unpractical on most people. But now, because of the gig economy, through apps like Uber and Lyft, and now you have apps like DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, where you can get food deliveries from restaurants to your house. You also have Shipt, which I did work for, Instacart, where you get grocery deliveries. You have apps, and you have the gig economy picking up a lot of the slack. They are, and that's because of capitalism.
I think it's called opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity. And that can only exist in the capitalist country. That can only exist with free markets. If the government just took over everything right now, do you think a lot of these things would exist in a good way? No.
And if there were no opportunity, a lot of people would just say, let the government give me my $1,000 a month.
Exactly.
I'm fine. Yeah.
But we have now the free market picking up the slack here. And I pointed out, I put up a Facebook post that got a lot of attention. I said the CDC doesn't have enough test kits, but Publix has plenty of beer and soda for you and plenty of supplies for you still. And people are like, well, they're out of toilet paper and out of stuff. They're going to have more soon. It's called supply and demand. If the government was running all this, I guarantee there would be lines and they'd be giving you one roll of toilet paper a week. And that's all you would get.
And you'd be in line to get bread.
Yeah, exactly. Where now you're getting a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily need, but that will help you through this. Good stuff. And you'll get the stuff you need because they want your money. And they're going to pick up the demand. They're going to pick up the supply to meet the demand because that's how capitalism works. But you have the gig economy picking up the slack here. And you have more, and they're going to need more workers. The gig economy is going to need more workers, more Uber drivers, more delivery drivers. Restaurants are going to need more takeout. Maybe even possibly grocery stores are going to need more workers for certain situations. So there is some good news that the capitalist economy can transform a little bit to help us in the situation. Another example of that is Amazon. So Amazon said this week to hire possibly 100,000 new workers temporarily to get through this crisis. That is only possible with entrepreneurship, with business, with capitalism. It would not have been possible in a socialist state. So if we just transform into this government top-down socialist state where we just get everyone and make them wards of the state, it wouldn't work. Capitalism is much better. You know, in one of the cities up north, they're going to have the National Guard deliver food. Would you rather have that for the whole country where the National Guard delivers food, or would you rather have options through Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, or pizza delivery or takeout? I like the capitalist option better. I don't know about you. So there is some good news here that I wanted to point out, that capitalism, not only are businesses transforming to provide medical supplies, not only are private pharmaceuticals stepping up when it doesn't really help their bottom line here, they're stepping up to try to get medicine and vaccines available in the shortest amount of time possible. And it's been the private sector that has stepped up because the CDC and the federal government failed in their testing kits. Capitalism is better. That's why we see these solutions right now where people are saying, oh, the government needs to take over. And you're going to have people on the left say it needs to be permanent. It's not the good option. and now I have proof for you.
I think I'd rather have my opportunity to choose what food I want to eat as opposed to having the National Guard deliver some stuff.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly right. Like I said, if this is the socialist utopia that you guys have been pushing for a while, it sucks. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back.
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com.
Hey, boss, you're not going to believe who I just heard endorsing Safe Touch Security on the radio.
Who?
Bill O'Reilly.
The Bill O'Reilly?
Yep.
You're yanking my chain.
I thought you might say that, which is why I recorded this off the radio. Listen.
So please call my friends at Safe Touch Security and get true professional equipment, professional installation, and the only monitoring center anywhere with a guaranteed response time.
This is not good news. Now more people will feel compelled to check out Safe Touch. And they'll find out about the two-way communicator and that guaranteed response time he was talking about.
Which will create more Safe Touch customers.
See? Not good news for us crooks.
Because we got to stick to the Crooks or Us motto, stay away from Safe Touch houses. Dang it, Bill O'Reilly's making our job harder.
Crooks know to stay away from Safe Touch houses. Hi, I'm Lester Jackson, president of Safe Touch Security Systems. No one beats our technology or our price.
Call Safe Touch today at 888-723-8682 or go to safetouch.com. State license number EF233.
Homeowners, with all of the recent world events, mortgage rates have continued to drop to about 50-year lows. So if your 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is higher than 3.375%, you should call True Mortgage now to see if you qualify for a no-closing cost refi. And when I say no closing costs, I mean no title, escrow, appraisal, or lender fees. Every day you wait, you're burning cash. And as we all know, the world turns in unexpected ways. So what are you waiting for? If your 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is higher than 3.375%, call True Mortgage now to see how much money you can save. Call 800-821-7793. 800-821-7793. That's 800-821-7793. Or visit TrueMortgageLoan.com. Sign on the line, Inc. DBA True Mortgage is located at 100 Spectrum Center Drive, Suite 520, Irvine, California, 92618. NMLS number MLD 1713. Not all loans apply. Equal housing lender.
The Budman here from Mills Air. Now is the time for preventative maintenance on your AC unit because the Florida heat and humidity will be back soon, and Mills Air will get you ready with their $69.95 Bud Special. For just $69.95, you get a 20-point precision tune-up that'll wind up saving you money. Mills Air, in business for 28 years, services all brands, and they're a certified carrier dealer, which can save you even more. Ask for the Mills Air $69.95 Bud Special. Call 407-277-1159. Online, millsair.com.
No more fake news. No more negativity. No more groupthink. It's time for the new media revolution. Join me, David Gronowski, tonight at 8 for A Neighbor's Choice on News Radio WFLA Orlando.
Complete coronavirus coverage every hour. News Radio WFLA Orlando. The place where we talk faith, culture, and politics. Beyond Reason Radio continues.
And welcome back to Beyond Reason Radio. Something that is definitely beyond reason is how some of the media in the left, especially in the Twitter world, which I've seen, which even on our social media, one guy who's friends with me, he's a leftist, saying he's calling Trump basically a racist for calling this. Well, here's Trump a couple days ago, I think. It might have been, it was either yesterday or the day before, where Trump came out and I think it was yesterday, actually. He said this about coronavirus.
I would like to begin by announcing some important developments in our war against the Chinese virus.
How could he say the Chinese virus? And, you know, the reporter, mostly it was a reporter from ABC, was saying, oh, how you could call it that? Isn't that racist? People are going to think that's racism. Here's the exchange.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China.
Exactly.
That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate. Yeah, please, John. Please.
Are you
I have
comfortable with
great.
this
I
term?
have great love for all of the people from our country. But as you know, China tried to say at one point, maybe they stopped now, that it was caused by American soldiers. That can't happen. It's not going to happen. Not as long as I'm president. It comes from China.
This is such the dumbest controversy. So many in the media on the left, they cannot escape identity politics. Their brains are just focused on identity politics, and they find it in places where it does not exist.
She must be a graduate of the Jim Acosta School of Broadcasting because she was looking for a gotcha moment. She wasn't looking for a responsible response.
Everyone knows why Trump is saying the Chinese virus. He just told you right there, and I guarantee he's being 100% honest there. Really, I do. He's saying it's a Chinese virus because China is trying to blame other parts of the world, including the U.S., for this, and he's trying to hold China responsible because they should be responsible because this started in China, in Wuhan, in another one of those meat markets where somebody ate a bat. This isn't the first virus that's come out of one of those. And they tried to cover it up in the beginning, and they've thrown out American journalists over this. They're trying to say, oh, look at our great response. In the beginning, this possibly could have been contained if the communist evil government in China didn't cover up the problem in the beginning.
Now, if you're going to order some Chinese food, is that being racist?
If you order Chinese, well, they're saying, no, of course not. They're saying that people are listening to Trump and saying, oh, well, Trump says Chinese virus. That means it's coming from the ethnicity Chinese, and we can't get Chinese food or be around Chinese people.
I see. Okay.
Which, if there are people doing that, that's on them. That's not on Trump because they are stupid. And those people are going to be stupid no matter what Trump says. That's not so. Trump, obviously, it's so obvious what he is doing to everyone. And if people don't understand it, that's on them because they're stupid, not on President Trump, because China should be held responsible for this. It's not about ethnicity. Not everything is about identity politics, you idiots on the left. Now, Dan Abrams, who is the legal analyst on ABC, he was on The View this week, and he actually told people on the left, this is a losing argument for you.
But it's clear that some Chinese officials are definitely trying to send out this message.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's clear, that they're trying to send out that message. And I think, look, this is one of these issues that I think, in particular, if many on the left get too focused on, Trump's going to win on this. The bottom line is the vast majority of Americans are going to say, tell me what to do on coronavirus. I care about this virus. It matters. I'm glad finally the Trump administration is recognizing how serious it is. But if people start focusing on what is he calling it the Chinese virus versus the coronavirus, look, do I think he should be calling it the Chinese virus? No. But I think it's a losing argument for the left to make, because I think the vast majority of Americans are going to say, who cares?
Because the vast majority of Americans know what he's talking about. And he said it. It's because it comes from China. Come on, people. It's just the dumbest controversy. There is even, I want to play a little bit of the montage of the media, many in the media, including Don Lemon, calling this a Chinese virus weeks ago. Here it is.
The Chinese coronavirus that they've been calling it. The first U.S. case of Chinese coronavirus.
The Chinese coronavirus.
This is coming as the Chinese coronavirus.
China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus. Outbreak anxiety. The death toll nearly doubles in China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus.
Just how bad is China's coronavirus crisis?
China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus.
China's coronavirus.
China's coronavirus.
China's coronavirus.
Man, I didn't know the media was so racist. Jeez. it's just ridiculous. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left here in the show. I appreciate y'all listening so far. If you missed any of the show, check out the podcast, anywhere podcasts are available. Definitely want to listen to last week's, the previous podcast too. I want to give you some hope here. I'm a Christian, and we talk about faith a lot. And there's one thing I was thinking about even before this came about, and I guess God put it on my heart before this came about and really is pertinent now. You just look at Matthew chapter 4, where it talks about Jesus went through Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon-possessed, those having seizures, and the paralyzed, and he healed them. Large crowds from Galilee, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across Jordan followed him. And I think about this, and I'm like, why did Jesus do this? Why did he go? One of the first things he did was heal the sick, heal those with leprosy, heal those with deformities. Why did he decide to do that? A lot of people think he wanted to prove he was God. He wanted to show that he could do miracles. And one way he wanted to show to do miracles was to heal the sick. And that's definitely true, no doubt about it. He is God, and he can do miracles, and he proved that when he was on earth. But another reason I believe he wanted to do this was to prove his love for us. A lot of the other pagan religions in the past, they didn't believe the gods loved them. They believed you had to placate to them so they wouldn't hurt you. But God brought his son to earth, came to earth in human form, and proved to us by healing the sick that he loves us, and proved to us how much he loves us by dying for our sins and calling on people to follow him. So when you read the Bible, read the parts where Jesus heals the sick. And remember, one, that he is powerful enough. He can heal the sick. He can get through this. He's not going to do it for everyone. It's not how it works. But when you read it, it's a good reminder that in tough times, even in the worst of times, that God loves you. It's a big deal. It really is when you think about it. The God of the universe who created you, he also loves you very deeply. He proved it by healing the sick. He will prove it again, even in tough times. Call out to him in these tough times because he does love you. He proved it to us. I appreciate you listening to the show today. Prayers for our country. I'll keep doing Beyond Reason as long as it takes, though, to give you something to listen to through all this. Your voice of reason. If you miss any of the show, catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available, like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page. Have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next time.